I think it had the best gun platform of any fighter in the world at the time. Within about 3.5 square feet, we had 450s and a 20 millimeter, and you did not have to line them up like you did on a 51 or a 47, where they would cross at about 300 yards out. Ours stayed right there until they started dropping off. We used to dive bomb and skip bomb. Dive bombing, we would go for a bridge or railroad yard or something, but occasionally there on the coast of Italy, the railroad ran south and there were giant bluffs, and you really couldn't dive bomb because you wouldn't be able to pull out. So we used to go in maybe at 100 feet above the train yard, drop our bombs and let them skip in there and then pull up and go over those bluffs. But it was always effective. It worked very well. I hate to say it was the coldest airplane in the world. They said we had a cockpit heater, but no heat came out. And we froze to death at 25 and 30,000 in the wintertime. They sent over some powder blue flight suits that were like winter underwear, and they had wires in them. And we had slippers that plugged in and gloves that plugged in. The only part of it that warmed up the best was your fanny, which you were sitting on, and we were always embarrassed. And when they issued them to us, we went into the CO's office and said, I don't think I'm going to wear it. If I have to belly in or something, I don't want to be caught by the Germans in this outfit.
The big features that the P51 had was its long range. I mean, it could go anywhere that the heavy bombers could go and come back, stay with them, and bring them home. The other features that made the P51 so special was its high maneuverability and high performance. It was very fast on the deck, on the ground, or at high altitude due to the two-stage, two-speed supercharger. I always felt that I could outmaneuver any German airplane with the P51. One of the disadvantages of the P51 was the liquid-cooled engine that had to have a radiator to keep the engine cool. And of course, if you got a hole in your radiator system and you lost your coolant, that'd be pretty devastating. What characteristics make a good fighter pilot? Training, probably. You know, the guy with the most experience generally is going to be the best pilot. So experience level was very important. Knowing your airplane, knowing your tactics, knowing the enemy, knowing his tactics and capabilities was important. Eyesight was important in World War II because, you know, we didn't have radar and things like this. You had to see them, you know, it was all visual. If you see somebody before he sees you, you can get yourself into a position of advantage to attack. And maybe there's a little motivation there too, you know, do you want to see them?
Early part of 44, we received what they call the P47D. And what makes it so big is they are the ducts that fit underneath the airplane. They go from the engine to the turbine superchargers, that's in the tail end of the airplane. And the turbine supercharger is what makes the airplane, because you derive the 2,000 horsepower that you do at ground level up to its what you call ultimate level of 30,000 feet. So everything from 0 ground level up to 30,000 feet, I can draw 2,000 horsepower. That added power meant so much. It meant that I could do combat with the enemy over his territory at all altitudes, and I could break off at will because I had more power than he had, and I could corkscrew, go up the altitude, and he couldn't follow me. Not only the power, but the visibility of the pilot in the cockpit changed drastically, because from a regular canopy that had bars on it, we now had sort of what they call a bubble canopy. That was just like looking out of a tube, a glass tube. So it gave us tremendous visibility. Now, we had to learn very gradually as to what advantage that gave us over the Focke-Wulf 190 and the 109. The most important thing that a pilot has to think about is, as he's going into combat, respect your adversary. In other words, don't underrate the adversary. So there are no miracles. There are no born fighter pilots. Some are a little better than others, and that's about it. But I would say time, training, and more training is the key to any success.